Hey there, I'm Sarah Hodges, and this is Executives Uncut, the podcast where we provide solutions for the corporate cycle of hell. And today we are talking about mindful decision making. And I'm here with Barry Demp of Demp Coaching. Welcome, Barry.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You are a veteran coach, what, 27 years in the business?
Yeah, I'm just getting started.
And we met in the most unusual way too. I think our audience is pretty familiar now with our intern Justin, our podcast producer, and you are his dad's coach, right?
Yeah, I've
Yep. And he said
worked
you've
with
got
his
his
dad
experience.
for over a decade. So
Wow. I
Justin was just a little boy probably when I started working with him.
But it's really cool to know. I mean, like you must have influenced him so much because he's going into industrial and organizational psych, I believe. So, you must have had a really powerful impact on him. But I really want to know, I want our viewers to know, because when you started Dem Coaching, it was very, coaching didn't really exist at that point. And you took a big leap of faith. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. I'm born and raised in the Philadelphia area, and my first professional career was I was a school teacher. So I
Oh,
come from a family of educators, and I love learning and growing and being my best. So I happen to have a high degree of interest in science, so I became a science teacher, and I taught for 2 years in Philadelphia. Each year they laid me off because of declining enrollments, and they would hire me back. And after the second time that happened, I didn't see a lot of stability. I had just been married, and we wanted to simply have some security in our lives. And my wife was a teacher as well, so I took my educational background and my science background, and I secured a job as a pharmaceutical sales rep for the Upjohn company, which no longer exists. But Upjohn now is a piece of Pfizer Pharmaceutical. So I like to tell people I was a drug dealer
wow.
selling Motrin. So I
Oh,
was very so I was very fortunate to have a 12 and a half year career with Upjohn in sales, in marketing, in advertising, in product management. And during my tenure there, we went through a change initiative that they kind of pulled the plug on. The year happened to be 1992, which was the year of the Barcelona Olympic Games. And
oh.
at the Olympic Village, there were 5,000 athletes and 2,000 coaches. And I made the correlation and did the math between excellence in gold medal performance and coaching. And I thought, what a great idea. Somebody should do that, but for business people. And if they did, the Upjohn company would have made that transition far more successfully. So within about 6 months, the Upjohn company offered a buyout. This is one of those, we'll give you a week of pay if you leave the company, and we'll give you a second week of pay for every year if you promise not to sue us. So I raised my hand and said, I'll take that. And I declared that I was going to be a business coach. And at the time, it never existed. So I thought I invented coaching way back in 1992, 93. And I've
You
been
may
at
have.
this for 27 years. So I like the idea of going for gold medal careers and gold medal lives and gold medal health and being a gold medal parent or whatever else you're up to. And so I've had the great honor of leaping out of bed each morning to do that, just that.
That's who knew? I have the world's first business coach on my podcast today. That's awesome. But I mean, I imagine, especially being a trailblazer, that there were a lot of hurdles you had to overcome. What was the biggest hurdle you had to overcome to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle was just the fear of the unknown. There was no roadmap or trail or breadcrumbs to follow to
Mhm.
say other people have done this before and they didn't die. So I was really swinging for the fences, looking within my heart and in my gut at how I wanted to make that decision. And I just knew that waking up in the morning with I don't want to, or beginning to dread Monday morning, Sunday night was just not okay. And I didn't want my two young children, who were about 5 and 7 at the time, to see dad, just kind of regretting, what he did just to, put food on the table and a roof over our head. So I figured, set a good example, and they say the best coaching is a good example. So I took a courageous move and took the leap, and it turned out.
That's so awesome. So, as you reflect back and you look at all of the decisions you had to make along the way in a time of uncertainty, which everyone in the world right now is pretty familiar with, besides your kids, what else has served as your internal compass?
So, one of the bonuses and benefits of being a coach is it allows me to do what I fundamentally need to do every day, and that is I need to learn and to grow. So as I learn and grow, I get to pay it forward and support other people in their unique growth trajectories as well. And there's this wonderful boomerang effect that I get that I'm always contributed to, and I always learn something from them as well. So that voracious appetite to learn, to grow, to pursue my own version of a gold medal in my life as a spouse, as a parent, as a coach, as somebody involved in the community. Now, that's super important to me to be doing every day.
Yeah, so you're getting fed too, right? Like it's helping you grow as a person. I definitely feel that in my own coaching experience. So, as you look back on 27 years of coaching, what is a sort of mindful decision-making success story that is your favorite that maybe impacted you the most? Could you tell us about that?
There's just not one. I think the thing that's so wonderful is when you work for somebody else, you kind of have to do the job and do whatever is kind of asked of you of that job. And within the work that I do right now, I get to do the work that I'm both called to do, and I get to work with people I'm called to work with. So one of my clients likes the phrase that they as a company are relatively jerk free. And it's like, well, that's an interesting way to look at it. But when we think about the people that are in our world, who do we spend our time with? And a quote that I like very much is, time is the coin of life, and how we spend our days and who we spend it with is our life. So that was very, very important for me to have some freedom and some choice and some autonomy in being self-directed and guided by my vision and values to pursue work that fed my strengths and fed my unique abilities and fed my interest in connecting with like-minded people.
Yeah. Well, and so, on that tangent, like when you say connecting with like-minded people, like we're both obviously like-minded people, right? We're both in the coaching profession. We both believe in the value of intuitive leadership. How has the coaching landscape changed over the last 25 years?
Well, it's been quite a journey. I like to refer to the first even decade of coaching as the wild, wild west. In the early years, there's literally no barriers to entry. You simply hang up a shingle, and people would come to you for advice or expertise or wisdom. So coaching back then was a hybrid of coaching and consulting and mentoring and tips and techniques and the latest book you read and so on. But as I aligned myself with the International Coach Federation, ICF, they have established the standards, the ethics, the core competencies, and the certifications that really have allowed the industry to grow to almost a $3 billion industry with about 71,000 coaches worldwide now.
Insane. Now both you and I are ICF certified coaches. I think it's very important to look for an ICF certified coach if you're considering hiring a coach because they hold coaches to a very high standard. But can you tell us more because you've been so involved with the organization for the last 25 years?
Well, when I'm in my profession, it was very important to me to excel and be the best coach that I could be. So I went to my first ICF conference in 1996, and it took me 3 years to get my master coach certification through the ICF. But just like if you were an accountant, you would want to be a certified public accountant, or if you were a surgeon, you'd want to be a board certified surgeon. So that way I would be perceived as highly credible in a particular field where, again, the barriers of entry are relatively low. So as people are using Google and other searches devices to explore the possibility of bringing coaching to their world professionally or personally, they want to kind of vet those people and make sure the connection and the value and the level of legitimacy is there. So ICF over the years, I would say they have close to 30,000 members, and about 50% of them have one level or one designation of certification. And that's kind of like a mark of excellence, indicating that that individual had to do something beyond being good at what they do to achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, they really put you through the ringer. I mean, we had to take tests and had to do like recorded coaching sessions and had certain hours of coach training and a mentor coach. And so, I was really grateful for the experience because it definitely elevated my abilities as a coach, to meet their standards. And I'm very proud of that certification. And it's really cool to be talking to you, knowing that you were such an integral part of that growth of that organization. It's pretty
In the
awesome.
early years, I was an assessor. And one thing that people should know on this call is we're required every 3 years to have another 40 continuing education. So we need to keep working, keep striving, keep making sure that our practices are as ethical as possible and that we're representing the highest standard of coaching that we can.
Yes. I love that they do that because there's so many new studies coming out every day, especially as the field of neuroscience progresses. It's so impossible to keep up with it unless you're really making an effort to educate yourself. Yeah.
Well, I like to say that I am a work in progress, and most of the people that I work with would say that as well. They want to be the best version of themselves as possible.
So speaking of which, back to decision making for a second, what do you think holds people back from making decisions that propel them forward, that helps them grow?
One of the things that I see happen very frequently is, there's this generalized fear that people have. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of failure, the fear of losing face, losing status, being judged by other people. And yet the appetite for failure, the appetite for risk has increased tremendously. So more and more organizations that are nimble and agile are taking a very much an approach of experimentation and fail fast and things of that sort. So I think the appetite for that is decreasing, and yet we do still have that tendency to want to look good and be right, and always get the job done and always excel. And we just know that in no form, no business, no sporting event do people achieve that. The best in the world fail all the time, and that's
Yeah.
why they're so great. But they seem to fail forward, which is terrific as well.
Yeah, I think most people do tend to fail forward, like people are pretty responsive and adaptive in general, that's why our race has progressed so, and I mean the human race has progressed so quickly over the course of, the last, what is it, several million years? I don't even know. I actually just learned this in a class recently and I already forgot it. But the point is, that's really where the mindfulness comes in mindful decision making, right? Is that there's a lot of internal fears, a lot of hesitation within us that can hold us back from making decisions that propel us forward. So how does one become aware of those things besides hiring a coach like you or I?
Well, that's great. I think one of the things that I've done over the years, and what I've actually practiced every morning for the last 4.5 years, is I actually meditate 10 minutes every single morning. So most people are familiar with going to the gym and working muscles and things of that sort, biceps and triceps. But what about that muscle kind of between your ears? So a big component of coaching is mindfulness and self-awareness. So that quote that says, wherever you go, there you are. But there you are with your inner voice, or some people call it your monkey mind. And there's always that inner chatter. And what we have to say about ourselves or about others isn't always so wonderful. So they say that if you put your internal voice on external speaker all the time, you or other people in your world would not like hearing what you had to say. But that colors everything that we do. So being self-aware of that inner critic, that inner judge, or even the judge that we have and apply to other people, that definitely affects our world and colors our world to determine how we navigate it.
Yeah, I call that the inner asshole because I don't censor myself or hold back. And it really is. It's like your inner jerk who is just attacking you all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Super. So, you know, how do, besides meditation, or maybe we can say, what does meditation do to help quiet that guy in your head who's like, you suck, everything you do sucks, and all those people suck.
Well, when I first started meditating, my conversation was, I really suck at this. You can't sit still for 10 minutes. And the focus is on your breathing in and breathing out, and just noticing sensations, and noticing emotions, and noticing your thoughts. And that's actually meditating. So when we pay attention to that, we can carry that forward into our days. So when we're having a conversation with somebody we care about, we can truly be present and be focused with them. And we can truly honor that relationship and the importance of that person far better than when we're in our own head and what we think and what we're going to do and say in response to what they've just said. So that form of exercise is super important for executives, for leaders, for parents, for spouses, and so on, to simply say, well, I'm here in this moment. How do I maximize and optimize that? And how can I not be an obstacle to my own intentions of making something better here?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I know that, you know, our and I've talked about this in other podcasts that when our brain is able to rest and not be thinking about anything, that's when solutions come to us because it can work optimally. You know, so I always say my best decisions are made and the best solutions come to me when I'm in the shower or on the toilet. Because let's face it, those are the only times that you have to yourself, right? And I don't have time to meditate right now. I have a 11-month-old, almost a 1-year-old at home, and I'm thinking to myself, as you're talking, ooh, I should do that. That's a really good idea. I need to meditate more in the mornings. And I'm like, God, that's not going to happen. But maybe I can try to make more space for it. But I do have time to take a shower. So I'll have to do it then. And that's the thing, too, is I think it's really important for executives to know that just having that downtime for your brain to make that decision, to look within, to have that intuitive mindfulness time is great wherever you can get it. So if it's on your car ride home, you know, and you're able to just kind of tune in as you're going through the flow of driving, or when you're taking a shower or whatever it may be, just holding that space intentionally. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. This idea of various habits we have and various rituals. I take a daily walk in nature. That's my exercise now that COVID has hit. So I'm not going to the gym just yet and going back to do that. But I take my walk and I see the happy dogs around the neighborhood that are taking walks as well. And, some days I'll listen to the birds chirping or feel the breeze on me, or just be focused on what I'm grateful for, that we live in such an amazing world and such an amazing country, so to speak. So, those types of things are different approaches and strategies that I use, and I help my clients explore, what's possible for them. Can you create little boundaries or little sacred spaces for yourself, even if you are a new mom that's just about to walk and run around the room or whatever it is? Is it in the morning, at night, over lunchtime, in the evening? Last night I woke up in the middle of the night and I had my Calm app read me a sleep story about Ireland. And I had just been to Ireland just a couple of years ago, and he described all these places that I didn't get to go to. It's like, well, I probably got to go back someday.
Yeah. Well, and we just had a post from Facebook from Ruth Irene. She said nature and late night bath meditations have saved my sanity during COVID. Good for you, girl, because man, like COVID has been really rough and is I think got people like in their minds so much, but their minds are constantly working, right? Trying to like think about what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? How do I handle myself in this uncertain environment? So taking that time out for yourself is awesome, and I'm glad that this resonated with you. But Barry,
Awesome.
we have to get to our tips because you had some excellent tips. I'll read them and then you can just elaborate. Does that sound good?
That sounds
So
great.
your first tip was make a decision with your head, your heart, and your gut. That's awesome. Tell us more.
So a lot of times when I was in my earlier career, people would make decisions primarily academically and cerebrally. So does this make money? Will I close the deal? Does this better my career and things of that sort? And at the same time, not all of those decisions were always as fully satisfying on a holistic level. So when I explore the possibility of working with a client, I want them to be able to use their head to say, this will be quantifiably valuable. And it will be even, valuable in other aspects. But I also want them to look within their heart. Does this serve and forward my values? Does this feel good in my gut? Will this affect intrinsic elements of myself as much as anything extrinsically? And usually the best decisions resonate on all three levels, head and heart and gut. Because although we think we make all of our decisions cerebrally or linearly, most of our decisions actually are emotional. So when we can tie it together and see that it works on both ends, we know that it's a more complete decision.
I love it. That is a great checklist for anyone trying to make decisions. You also had the tip, ask yourself if your decisions forward others. I love that. Tell us more.
Yeah, I am a firm believer that we're on this planet to serve and to help and to bring out the best of other people. So if what I am doing is purposeful, if it is contributory, if it helps other people, then I can be pretty damn unstoppable at going for that and being courageous and being bold, as opposed to it being self-serving or it's all about me and what's in it for me. So when I can be generous, when I can be bold and serve the people that I love and that I care about, and if that forwards their growth as well, it's very satisfying, very much as you will find as your little one grows up, as they grow and evolve and learn and take in the world and explore and experiment with their own world, you will take just tremendous delight in being that parent and supporting of that young little one's journey and being somewhat their coach too.
Yes, absolutely. I already think this poor kid, I'm going to be coaching her so much as she gets older. But it makes sense, right? When your goal is to forward others, it helps erase some of that fear because it's not self-serving at that point. But your last tip was ask yourself if your decision supports your growth and evolution.
Yeah, so how I spend my day is really super important. So I like that quote, time is the coin of life, and who we spend it with and what we spend it doing. So for me in particular, learning and growing and bettering myself so that I can kind of pay it forward with others is super important. So if what I'm doing and how I'm spending my time allows me to learn and grow. So whether it's a book I'm reading or a podcast or a documentary or a science show or just a new fact. Yesterday I learned that there might be possibly life in the atmosphere of Venus. Now, Venus is 900 degrees and no life could live on the surface, but up in the atmosphere, the temperature is a little bit more moderate and there are chemicals there that might show evidence of possible life. Well, I didn't know that, and now I do. So I just thought that was the coolest thing, given that, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid.
Yeah. Wow, and I just want to learn how to play the ukulele. All right, so for this week's coaching challenge, let's wrap it up. Before making a decision, take time to evaluate how the potential outcomes align with your vision and values. Okay, both personally and for your organization as a whole. Your vision and values, organizationally and personally, are really going to help act as your compass when you make those decisions. So check in with yourself. So that's the Hodges coaching end of the coaching challenge today, and which I hope you feel encompasses what you've taught us, which has been so valuable. Barry, thank you so much for these amazing tips. Where can viewers find out more about you and Demp Coaching?
Sure. Well, I truly am a believer that givers gain. So I have a lot of resources that I give away. Hopefully at some point people say, well, gee, I wonder what he charges for. But I have a daily blog that I've been writing 5 days a week for 9 years. And the blog is called The Quotable Coach with no spaces. So each morning, Monday through Friday, you'll get a quote, a coaching commentary from me, and an exercise so that you can actually apply it. And it's absolutely free. I wrote a book based on that series called The Quotable Coach, Daily Nuggets of Practical Wisdom, and we launched that on Amazon years ago. But that's just fun. And as I work on these quotes, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. So even if nobody even read it, I would still get benefit from that. The other resources that I'd like to share with your listeners is I wrote 3 workbooks that people can either download from my website or send me an email and I will send it to them. Workbooks are on the subject of masterful relationships, masterful networking, and perhaps one of the most popular is time management strategies and tactics. So these are books that are 25 pages long. They're downloadable from the website dempcoaching.com, but you simply could email me, barry@dempcoaching.com, and I will be happy to forward a PDF version so you can just print it out and share it with anybody in your community.
Thanks, Barry. It's like Christmas. Thanks for all the free gifts. I don't think our viewers have gotten this many free gifts from any of our guests so far. So I'm sure they really appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking time out to share all of these nuggets of wisdom from your 27 years of coaching, which is incredible. And thank you to the rest of you for tuning in to this episode of Executives Uncut. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe and share with someone who could benefit from the talk. And visit hodgescoaching.com for new episodes or follow us at Hodges Coaching on social media. You can pretty much find us everywhere right now, except for Twitter and TikTok. But you can find us on Amazon Music, on iTunes, Google Play. I don't know, basically just search for us and we will pop up. Anyway, Barry, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you taking time with us today. I'm Sarah Hodges, and I will see you next week.